Welcome again. This is the Cohoes City School District Board of Education meeting today, December 11th. We're reconvening our meeting at 6:01 p.m. The emergency exits, there's two on the side, one in the front, and we would meet out front for any type of emergency. If we could please just stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we please have a roll call?
Mrs. Giller,
I'm here.
Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Mrs. Gendron. I'm here. Mr. Paradis,
I'm here.
and Mr. Droz.
Here.
At this time, I'll turn it over to Superintendent O'Shea for our district reports.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. To start the evening, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tim Mundell, first time at the table. Dr. Tim is our newly appointed interim assistant superintendent, and we are thrilled that you've joined us.
Well, thanks, Mrs. O'Shea. I'm really pleased to be here, and thank you to the Board of Education for the support in filling this role. I think it's really an important role. I told Peggy, I guess my job is just to take things off of her plate because she's been carrying a big burden. And, aspiring to the assistant superintendent job has been a 39-year goal of And I'm glad to be here. And everything that I've seen so far, I've really encouraged. There are a lot of committed faculty and staff members and administrators. And the kids seem to have a hop in their step and are ready for some good things to happen. If there's one thing I'll promise is the best effort to make good things happen for kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Very, very much. We're happy to have you here, and, you have our support. If you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to Ms. O'Shea.
Will do.
Okay,
Great.
thanks so much. Nice to have a full group.
Yes, it is. Thank you. And at this point in time, I am going to introduce our Cohoes High School Assistant Principal, Mrs. Brown.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to introduce Mr. Christian Gunn, who is one of our fabulous music teachers in the district, who also runs our plays, and you all know how those go. He came to us and proposed a club called Triumph, which a lot of schools in the area have, and it's basically the honor society for students. And with our increasing enrollment in our programs, we fully support him and the students. So they're going to do a presentation on the Triumph Club.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So I brought two of my students with me today. We had a third, but I think she was contingent on a ride or walking, and I think the rain made things a little difficult today. But I brought two of my students with me today to talk a little bit about like Ms. Brown said, the new club that we're presenting or proposing called Triumph National Music Honor Society. I'll tell you a little bit about it in a moment, but I'm glad my friend Isabel started to talk.
And Triumph is a musical arts society that is a program. Three M's stand for modern. It represents the idea of music's importance in the world, and it aims to foster and grow future leaders in education. Educators experience the world.
How does it work? It is meant for students in grades 9 through 12 enrolled in band and choir who have a passion for music as well as in serving our community. All students that apply are required to meet certain standards, like an 80 or higher in all curricular classes, a 90 or higher in all band and choir classes, as well as a certain number of community service hours dependent on the chapter.
So the reason we're proposing a Cohoes Triumph, we have a lot of music students throughout our programs right now, and we've been pushing towards the academic sphere as well with adding, at this point, 3 college level HBCC accredited classes that the kids can go through in their kind of performing arts education. And we want to be able to provide them a little bit that went beyond school as well. So a membership charter within Triumph, which is a National Honor Society, provides scholarship opportunities, both inside and out of the music sphere and the performing arts sphere that would be phenomenal for, I think at this point, we've had 6 students in the past 4 years that I've been at the high school who have gone for some form of performing arts after high school, whether it was acting or we have a music education student in school right now. We have one that just graduated in like performing arts tech and one who is going to school for that right now as well. So we want to be able to provide those students with scholarship opportunities as well that were a little bit more focused towards their niche. This also obviously adds to transcripts, adds to resumes as they are applying to institutions, whether it be work or academic institutions beyond high school. And we really wanted to focus on bringing music to the community at large and not just keeping it within, the walls of our schools. This would allow us to really push out into different community service opportunities, as that is a recommended portion of the charter as provided by the National Association for Music Education. And this really allows, we have phenomenal boards on for all of our, office boards, all of our different music clubs. But we haven't really before had the opportunity to collect a group of the student body to really be able to speak to have a say in their own music program beyond, general conversations and questions in classes and in the hallways. So this would be a great opportunity for us as, music educators to be able to communicate with them and hear directly from them the direction that they want things to go and the things that they would like to add and opportunities that they'd like to see, grow. This would also allow us to, we have, March is a very busy month for the high school in general with our program because that is our musical month. And this would allow us a cohort of kids who will allow us to really celebrate March as Music in Our Schools Month, as it is nationally known as. But this would really just allow them to really have a say and a direction and a drive, and a controlling, interest in their own program. So that was the thought behind this. So this would allow them, services outside of school. This would allow them scholarship, and would allow them to really take a bit of ownership of their own program. So that's a little bit of trying. Yes, please.
I'm very interested.
Excellent, I love it.
Okay. First, so it was Isabel. What grade are you in?
I'm in ninth grade.
Ninth grade, and
Micah, 11th grade.
11th grade. Thank you guys for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. But, okay, so thinking about this in like a National Honor Society lens, if we were to participate in the program, is it like, are there regulations that you need to meet as far as like, I know that you said that there is a grade component, probably community service component. Would it look a lot like a National Honor Society where kids would come in at a certain point, or would it be like a continuous enrollment? I'm just wondering how that's judged and at what point kids would be able to be eligible.
It is a yearly enrollment, so they would apply for it every year, much like they do National Honor Society. And beyond that, beyond the academic requirement of being currently enrolled in one of the performing arts classes, the advanced course at the high school, and the overall academic requirement of 80 in all classes and 90 or above in all music classes, Triam gives you kind of like a foundational suggested charter, and they give guidance on, you can take pieces from that. They suggest that you have community service hours in there, and then they give you, based on the population of your district, what those community service hours should look like. And so they give suggestions, but everything beyond that is, as they put it, to be done in conjunction with us and the administration at the high school level.
So there would be no max minimum number requirement of students to participate. I know, and I'm thinking more on the max end of it, right? Like we have a lot of kids very interested in music program, which is amazing. And, I love this idea. And we kind of asked Mrs. Tarlow to look at the programs that we have at the high school to think about what's relevant and to see if we're not hitting the mark and where we could better fund programs like this. So, with that being said, is there a cost associated to be a part of the greater Triam group?
There is a cost for schools, and beyond that, there is no membership due beyond just paying for the actual, so our chapter would have to pay the national kind of umbrella Triam. But beyond that, the only thing that we would ever have dues for is if we decided to do something like courts or stoles for graduation, they would have to, do something like that. But that's something that I've been, beginning talks with, the Booster Club, and then something that if this was accepted, I would talk to the district at large to
I
see
was gonna say,
how we could.
look into that piece.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because I want to, as we have tried our very best throughout all the different music programs so far, to have as very little costs as humanly possible ever encumbered by the kids.
Yeah.
And this would be hopefully another extension of that when we work with the district, work with the Booster Club, and try to find some way to get all of these costs taken care of so that they don't have to take any of that on their shoulders.
Are we thinking it would be like a singular advisor or a double, do you know? If it would just be one advisor for the group, or if you would need to have multiple? I think our National Honor Society has one. Okay. So it would just be one advisor for the program? Okay. And would there be any sort of, and I know that this is, and just because I'm looking at it from the National Honor Society lens, also, I think it's wonderful. And I think it's absolutely something that we should do. This is me personally, being a music kid and, being involved in all of the things when I was in high school. I feel like music really supported me. But would you consider moving into, more of a recognized kind of a group where there's actual, participation and a certificate, that kind of a thing? I love the idea of like having graduation recognition and
That would be my goal as well, would be to have some kind
and
of.
I'm not speaking for the group. This is
Right.
just, to be honest, I got here hot seat, but I'm interested and I support this. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, certainly. Our goal would be to have an induction ceremony at the beginning of the year. We would take applications starting at the end of the previous, the prior school year, and then towards the beginning for our incoming ninth graders. And we would have an induction ceremony, we would have certificates. Our goal would be to make it something that kind of integrates in with the school systems of National Honor Society, while, kind of being a partner, a sidekick.
Great. I thank you. This is all of my questions.
Thank you very much. Look at all the signatures.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have questions or comments?
No, I think it's great. Yeah, it's a great program. Thank you for,
What timeline are we looking as far as?
right.
So the model that we follow when introducing new clubs is that the first year, the advisor volunteers and so we would be able to, is it something we can introduce mid-year? And then, look at it as part of the budget process for next school year during the budget.
There are no restrictions on when you are or not able to charter a new chapter within it. It would have to be a conversation, I think, again, within the district club to figure out the initial payment of membership within the larger chapter, but that would be the only thing that would need to happen. Other than that, timeline is flexible. I think my goal would be, if accepted, would be probably the third week in January to have kind of beginning meetings with all the kids and start to get, everything penciled out. The first week back is the week that we have the junior musical. So right after that ended, I'd start having meetings with the high schoolers, introducing it to them, talking them through the application process, and then probably within a couple of weeks, the actual induction ceremony.
And that's right at the end of the semester, right, Ms. Terrell? Pretty much.
Yeah, and if I could, if you have an idea, I don't know if we do tonight, the charter cost, it could be a good fit for going to the student council as startup fees to get their support as an existing club to support student initiatives and ask for some funding to start to get this going. And then the booster club, the sustainability part of it moving forward. But that I think is a charge of the student council to support.
I like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing this to us. Like I said, I really like forward thinking and trying to meet kids where they're at. We've got so many kids in this program. Why not recognize the hard work that they put in? Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Nice job.
So at our recent elementary building leadership team presentations, we talked about strengthening reading and writing. We talked about recalibrating into reading, consistent use of foundations, new 3 through 5 writing program, which teachers have received some additional training yesterday and today and tomorrow. We also talked about iReady Math. So what we realized that we did not share with you in any great detail was science. What we're doing to really build the foundation and strengthen at the elementary level. So who better to share that information than our elementary principals? And I'm not sure if you're going to just all stand on up, and we're going to start with Principal DeCero, then go to Principal Perry, then Principal Berg. Cliff is the clicker, right?
What?
You're the clicker, you know. You usually just say.
That's,
They turned it off.
There you go.
So elementary science update. First, I'm like, man, I'm wearing my pants on today. Shiny and bright.
I was
Pants
gonna
got
say.
today. So science at the elementary schools, for many, many years, we had kids from BOCES. And so we have slowly transitioned into kids we have been getting from Smithsonian. These kids have, even though the BOCES kids did have hands-on, these are a little bit more forward into current curriculum. Students are making connections. They're engaged in, it's reading, it's writing, it's math, all while doing science. And there's a large lab component in it that gets the kids really excited. And I have to say, I was in my 5th grade classroom a couple of times over the past few weeks, and they were doing, one of the kids, it was their identifying materials on their properties. The kids all had their goggles on, they had aprons on, and they had working in groups, so it was collaborative. And they're working in groups, and they had 6 substances in these little cups, and then they had to light a candle and then hold the substance over the candle flame for 3 minutes. And someone had to be the timer, someone got to be the holder, and the other person is taking the notes. So they had their, they're making graphs, they're writing their notes down, and they're watching for 3 minutes. Afterward, they're watching and listening. Okay, what do we hear anything while it's on the flames? Are we smelling anything? What are we seeing happening? And then after the 3 minutes, they're waiting, and then they're writing down what all their observations were. And then once all 6 substances are done, they're saying, okay, what can we synthesize from all the information we gather? What is different about all these 3 substances? Why did some liquefy? Others didn't liquefy. So you can see so much higher level thinking happening. The kids are working together collaboratively. And like I said, they're making their own graphs, looking at charts and graphs. So they're really a great new addition to our science program. And I really see the connection again with math, science, reading, writing, all happening at the same time. And while I was there, I said to myself, I feel like I'm back in Ms. Russo's chemistry class. So that's 5th grade? Grade, it was for me, it was 11th grade.
We had a wacky Wednesday at Harmony Hill. During that lab too, our 5th graders realized that they can't drink or smell things. That's one of the things for science, you can't drink anything. So this is your lineup of the kits. Each grade has 3 specific kits that are delivered to them. One of the ones that's a lot of fun is obviously the butterfly one, because they see the life cycle and then they go out and they let the butterflies go. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes not. We have a tendency to feed birds in the front of our building. So you can imagine when you let butterflies go, what happens with the birds.
Extra credit lesson.
Couple butterflies make it. So we've had that a few times, let it go in the back.
Circle of life.
Less birds there. And then, let's see, what else we have? These things, a lot of these things, particularly 2nd grade, we flop things around, so it makes a little bit more sense. The 5th grade has moved, has changed 2 of the 3 because of the 5th grade, the 4th grade science test that used to be hands-on and a writing component that our students used to be 80 to 90% proficient in because they just love the hands-on. Well, we took a year off. Now last year we had a 5th grade New York State assessment that was true to New York State's 5th grade assessment, how they wrote it. They wrote it at an 8th or 9th grade level. So it was very, very difficult. Across New York State, the proficiency level was 30%. So the kits that we had use the sky to navigate and also the water filters. There was little or none of that on the assessments, so they found some Smithsonian kits that better met the needs of that assessment. Now, New York State's also going to try to change the assessment this year because they blew it, they made it a little bit too hard. So we'll see. So what they did is instead of the sky to navigate, they are going to replace it with ecosystems, and they're going to be receiving training on that next week. All the fifth grade teachers are going to be receiving training on it. And then their last one, instead of water filters, will be how do we provide fresh water to those that need. That is, we're going to give them training also before the assessment on that. So some really fun things like Jack said, a lot of hands-on, pretty rigorous, quite rigorous. But the kids really, really like it a lot. So that's your lineup. The Smithsonian Science Kits.
Before we go to Mr. Byrd, I just want to mention, I think at some of the meetings, we've heard the difficulty of release time, finding subs, et cetera. So the elementary principals have been working together. So for example, the fifth grade science kit training, if we release half of the fifth grade teachers in the morning for training, the other half in the afternoon, it's less coverage. We're still doing the training. We would like to get to where we are able to have the whole grade level together, and we do that on release days. But this is a way, and that happened today. Today, writable training was at Harmony. Tomorrow, it's at Lansing. But it is a way to make sure we are getting that professional development. A lot of flexibility and scheduling on the part of the principals. So thank you.
One quick note about kindergarten, they don't use these kits because they do some plants activities and they also catch ticks in their classrooms, which is an exciting thing.
And I would highly recommend it if you ever get a chance to go in the kindergarten classroom right around the hatching factory.
See them early, because later on you don't be there. They don't sing.
Harry just mentioned it's been radically different. Fourth grade system to be very little content, mostly process oriented. Mrs. DeChiro mentioned that these science kits that we were talking about are very involved with using graphs and charts. That's what most of the fifth grade assessment was. Over the next 6 pages, look at all the graphs and charts and try to tell us what year the pine tree grew the most, and figure out why, and then try to figure out how many owls could fit in the tree that couldn't fit before. It was very challenging and having kids look at multiple groups. But the other thing that came this past year is our students are required, our fifth grade students are required to complete 4 investigations by the end of fifth grade. We can start in third, and so you'll see a progression here. But the first challenge in last year was the fifth grade had to do all of the investigations before they did the assessment. And then, as you'll see, we started energy in fourth grade, life cycles in third grade as the students move up. The challenge we're worried about is when we get to next year, 25 and 26, are the students going to remember the investigation that they did in the middle of third grade while they're getting ready for the fifth grade assessment at the end of fifth grade. The other challenge is keeping track of who has taken these investigations. Right now, we're all keeping files. We're in hopes we can fit it somehow into school tools. And then the other challenge is when we get a fifth grader that moves in from Tennessee in March, they have to have all 4 of the investigations before they can officially participate in the science assessment. So there are some things I'm not sure New York State thought about as they were preparing for this. But we've met the challenges very well. I think last year we were quite successful in getting all of us into fifth grade. We have chosen, if you look at 25, 26, where those investigations will settle, we've chosen investigations that also kind of go along with the kits that they're already using in third grade, the kit that they're using in fourth grade. We've been doing electricity in fourth grade for 20 years now, so that kind of fits in. Our fourth grade teachers are comfortable with that as well. So the process is in place, making sure everything works, and the kids are now dealing with everything that we're expected to have happen before we get fifth grade. So we think we're ready to go. We need another year or two to get everything in motion. We're in the right path. And the professional development we're looking at next week, we'll get that in motion.
Can I just ask a question about the kids? So before it was like we would sign them out right through BOCES, or how does this work with Smithsonian? Is it, do we own them? Like, is it part of our budget process? Do we borrow them?
They're still through BOCES.
Still through BOCES?
They're still through BOCES.
And it's just like a borrowing type of a situation where you have to sign up, you have it for a couple of years, they pick it up.
Open the boxes.
And we haven't found that there's any lack of materials for our district.
Everything.
Great.
So what happens the first year you use a new kit, there's an increased charge because it's the first year, then after that it just becomes a refill charge. So that's why we budgeted, throughout over the course of a few years. And all of the manuals are online. We also the teachers get the manuals, but right now they're able to look at their manual for March too. So, and I think the kits, you have the kits for a solid period of time, not just a few weeks. And the process works very smooth, no complaints about materials. I remember the old days when
We had to run out by straws.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Good, so, perfect. I do, looking at your cycle here of where you're going, because this is kind of where we're forced into, where, fifth grade all of a sudden had to learn all the things, and then, slowly incorporating the different grade levels. When we get to the point of 25, 26, are we like considering a review of the lifestyle traits that happened in third grade so that we don't hit that wall? Or just kind of like, it's hard to know because, we have a very strict curriculum that we have to follow. But also you guys have been in the positions that you've been in for a long time to understand and know that something that you learned in third grade is not necessarily going to be in your brain as fresh as it needs to be taking an exam in fifth grade.
But also remembering that the test is more process. So this does spiral the way we looked at it as well. So we're using the same process, the same decision-making, real experience. So that does fit all the way through, but to help fifth grade teachers relax a little bit, we have started talking about a tiny boot camp before the assessment, just to roll through what the students had done.
Great.
And like Cliff said earlier, it's a good flag, because it was a year where in New York State, so to make sure that they're following everything. One of the things that's done to help our science too is we've all incorporated our RPI, the RPI, come in and do some things with they help great thing. They work with fourth grade with service and so forth, so they have a whole line of things. They'll come in and work with the RPI engineering ambassadors that help us out, so they come in and work with us they help us out quite a bit too.
Great.
I think the connection to career, when National Grid comes in, we try to ask them also to make that connection, to talk about, science and what's happening in fourth grade science. So really trying to weave in as much as we can and make connections for the kids. Oh yeah, I remember that we do that FMUI and here it is in the world. So it's beautiful.
It's semi-embarrassing to say, because I always hate what gets tested gets taught. But for years, we were focusing on ELA and math. Because our day is only this long. And now, I know Julie from BOCES is coming to all 3 elementary schools to start at faculty meetings, to start talking about second grade teachers. You really need to make sure science shows up in there, because this is what happens in fifth grade. This is the thought process and conversation we need to have. Kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, even though the test isn't in your timeline, there's a really spiral process that needs to be in place. So it's encouraging teachers to craft more time. It's in their day.
And it can be fun.
Right.
It's to be fun.
It'd be great for it.
I think there's some students, like I was saying, that where it's reading and writing and math. And there are some kids that struggle in reading, writing, and math. But when they're able to be maybe the lead lab person doing a lab, you know, and they're the ones getting a hold that, you know, that little cylinder. Like, get excited about that, those kind of things, and can really be part of it and see themselves equal with their other classmates that maybe when they're in reading or math groups, they're not. But here in science, doing lab like this, I am on the same, you know, plane as my peer. I think that's a really encouraging thing to see as well.
Which Mr. Gray mentioned as the part of this from the old fourth grade test. Our kids did very well in the fourth grade test because there was an entire 2-hour process where they got to do 5 or 6 experiments. Our kids did very well. Hands-on, manipulative things, and that's gone from assessment. So that's a loss for us. We have to find investigations to let them have that as they prepare for this assessment.
I mean, we all know that it's never great to have to roll out new curriculum or to teach a different way, and it's very overwhelming for our staff too. So thank you guys very much for putting your heads together to figure out a way to get our staff trained. I think it's important to make sure that they feel confident in what they're teaching so that they can, you know, give that confidence to the kids. And part of that is the training and the support that they get from being together and seeing the experts. So thank you very much for that. Any questions?
Where are we at in the life cycle of the Smithsonian kids? Like, how often do we look at a refresh? Or I'm just trying to understand sort of where in the process we are.
So what we've done now with the addition of the 2 fifth grade, actually,
No, I'm saying like overall big picture. I know, like you said, we pay more first year, then we
And then-
probably refresh the consumables for a number of years.
well, they still send the kits for us. They send
Right.
it back and they send the full kits with the consumables. I just want to mention, so the fifth grade, the final kit, that was going to happen next year. The fifth grade teachers wanted to pilot it this year, a couple, and then when asked, all fifth grade wanted to do it. So that one, we are going to revisit at the end of the year. Then what we'll be doing is so for the next budget cycle, it will be this. And then what we'll do is get the feedback from the teachers. We'll look to see if we're still aligned, which just like in second grade this year, those were shifted, see if anything new should be added, and also talk about okay, so here's the kits, but there's other science concepts and skills that need to be mapped.
And that was where my
That's
students be.
that's the next step, yeah.
This is my happy spot. Like, this is the stuff that I do with the kids at home.
Yeah.
And like knowing some of the other kits that BOCES has, there's a few other things that I'd love to start to see us look at ways we can pilot, look at ways we can pull in, you know, stuff that ties in with coding, logic, you know, trying to get back to our future ready, you know, problems versus, you know, this is what we have to do. We have to do it, I get it. But how can we then take some of the other stuff that I know is fun, that I know is engaging, and try to add that into.
So what we did with this, though, we looked at what do we have to do, but then we said, how can we do it in a way that is 21st century skills? But that is the next step, and that is right where we were with Teresa Billington. Remember that a few years ago? And we're back and we're ready. So that'll be it.
And also, Mr. Jackson, we haven't discussed this with the board. We're on our 3rd year phasing this in. So the first 2, I don't know whether it's 2 of the 3 kits are already in the refurbished mode.
Okay.
We're just buying
Yeah.
1 additional kit for each of the grade levels, and then we're on.
And with that, so like the coding, what you're talking about, some of those resources, would that fall more into like computer science standards? Because that's another piece, right? That we have to start introducing.
Back in with the same science concepts. Sort of.
So, and that also ties in with looking at our technology integration specialists and some of the things that she's working on. I know Dr. Tim, you call him Dr. Tim, so now it's in my head. Tim has started those discussions too. So.
Just as a note, oftentimes in the field, we've felt like SED drives what we teach because of what's on the test. And they select what's on the test based upon the standards that are written. I think a couple of things come to my mind. Let the test inform us of our priorities, but at the same time, when we have the opportunity to provide feedback to SED, tell them what we would like to see on the test in terms of topics. You mentioned career awareness and the relevance that kids would see. Certainly some of the things that be on the ground in classrooms and what kids would be excited to prepare themselves for, SED would be receptive to that feedback. If we're not willing to give it, they'll never know, and on will go the dissonance between the field and the department. And so, yeah, we can direct them. They want to be customer friendly.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys, for playing.
Thank you.
Laura gets the clicker now. Oh, you don't even need the clicker, yours is for.
I didn't know, I was getting nervous.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
No, you don't need to. So just very briefly, at the secondary BLT presentation, Laura touched and her team touched upon Edgenuity, and Laura's going to give you an update to date.
Sure. So excited to share about Edgenuity because last I spoke to you, we were in the process of transitioning from Apex, which we had had for several years, into this new realm of Edgenuity. So a couple things that we've taken advantage of technology-wise and changed. So we've gone to single sign-on for all students through the ClassLink platform and utilize that technology so it's easy for kids to access it. So whether you're using it right now or not, when they log into their ClassLink single sign-on, it is there for them as an educational tool that they can utilize. The second thing we did was move from a classroom model where the schedule was pieced together by period with different teachers in different content areas, which didn't really serve the purpose, right? If you needed a math teacher and you only had period 4 available and they were in their period 10, it didn't really reach the goal of what we're doing. So we moved to a model of a teacher assistant that's in there all day, knows the kids, knows the courses, knows the system and the program, and is tracking and monitoring student progress and work in that Edgenuity platform. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage with some of those macro things that we changed moving into this year. The program itself has been really, really awesome. And the kids tell me, oh, this is so much better, Ms. Tarlow, because it's visual. It's a video-based program with text overlay. And so the content delivery is much more modern. Apex was text-heavy. A lot of our kids in the credit recovery programs had reading and literacy deficiencies, and then they're having to decode and read text that's above grade level for them. So this has allowed them to use that video. They can replay a video, they can pause, they can go back. I had my notes with me. The Edgenuity platform comes in 63 languages, and it does a read aloud in 7 of them right now. And the Edgenuity team tells me they're always making improvements and additions to that platform. We have 19 course recoveries. That means a student was unsuccessful for whatever reason in a previous school year with a course. They can now take that course for credit recovery the following year without it bogging down their regular schedule. Meaning, maybe I did not pass Global 1. I can recover that credit the next school year and move on to Global 2 with my peers and my classmates. So I'm now not a whole year behind retaking a course that I just took. And then I'm reteaching so that if I, need that preparation for when I have to sit for the Global Regents exam, I have that background knowledge. And then we're also using it for Regents prep in that same manner. Then we are using quarter recovery. Quarter recovery is a proactive solution to let you fail, let you fail, let you fail, quarter 4, let you fail again, and oh my God, you failed, right? It is, you failed quarter 1, no, failure is not an option. We're going to ask you to recover the credit that you failed from quarter 1, reteach the skills and content, build yourself up to get ready for quarter 2 and work on that simultaneously so we're not pulling you out of class. You can complete that at home. You can complete it during a quiet study, and we could also reassign you from a quiet study to the Edgenuity lab if you felt that that would be helpful for you. But you don't have to be scheduled into that lab because there are more students that take quarter recovery than full course recovery. So we currently have 16 quarter recovery courses and 19. We have a catalog that we subscribe to as part of our membership, so we can always add more courses in. For example, we wanted to branch out to art classes. We typically have not recovered credit in art, but studio and art, if a student failed it, now they can recover that elective credit. They can move on to an elective that maybe interests them
more instead of having to repeat art a second year or a third year. PE. Seems silly, but kids fail PE most of the time for non-participation. They refuse to participate. That has greatly improved on its own over the past few years through just different planning that we've implemented. But the kids that still fall through the cracks can now recover PE credit. We can recover economics credit if we're seniors, civic engagement credit. So there's a lot of courses that align. There is SAT prep, ACT prep, there are Regents course preps, and everything is customizable. So our teacher leaders have decided with their teams, this is what quarter one recovery should look like. They built it, they customized it, they rolled it out. Our special education department can go on the back end. They can look up the student's IEP. They can put in the supports, modifications, and test supports that are needed in that child's IEP. So when the kid logs in, it's already set in their preset settings. So it's just a much more robust program. It seems to be going very well. If you can't tell, I'm excited. And I think that having that point person that's sort of our Edgenuity expert now and a go-to where the kids can go, because you could have a kid working on multiple courses in theory. And so it seems to go very well. The teacher leaders have a big play in the curriculum part and the content part. And so far, so good. We could always ask the teacher leaders for their input, what they think of it. That's sort of a general overview right now.
So this is a district-wide license that, or
I know it's
or
912.
912,
Oh, yeah.
912 license where all kids have
Yep.
access. Is it that they have access to every program if they so chose to participate? Do we have potentially like extra, if someone is really interested in engineering, is there something that if they wanted to do on their own time, they could support their own, interests by participating? Or is it something we have to assign to a kiddo?
So right now we assign,
Okay,
but you will be happy to, as a tech person, there are rostering capabilities
okay,
that directly talk to schools.
okay.
Okay. There
If you
are,
need my help with that, you just.
okay. There's also a great implementation team with BOE that's been helping guide this along the way to make sure it's seamless. Credit accrual, which you're speaking about, is sort of a different avenue that we use a little bit of. And we mostly use it for students that are deficient of credits for graduation. Perhaps they need an elective credit in business, art, whatever. We have to have that aligned to somebody. So because they've gotten it a year prior, taught by a certified teacher, they can recover the credit, and there's certain legalities to that.
Yep.
When you're talking accrual, it has to be aligned and linked to a certified teacher. So the capability exists. It's just not fully rolled out right now in our month.
I guess I was kind of.
So if you went to
considering-
Latin, and we don't offer Latin, in theory, you could activate the Latin course, enroll the student in the Latin course.
Yeah.
And they could take it as long as it was linked to a certified world language teacher.
I was thinking more of just enrichment type of a thing where not necessarily.
Yeah.
There would be credit at the end of it. It would just be more.
Yeah.
My interests are this. I know, maybe I'm an upperclassman. I know I'm going to be going to college to pursue a certain degree, and maybe I want to support myself before I get there. So that was just kind of, I'm thinking about extra, the above and beyond, the kiddo who might just want to immerse themselves in a particular topic to see if that's where their interests really are prior to, going into
I love that. I
post-secondary.
think that would be neat to explore that.
Yeah.
The rostering capability also fits the needs of the kid who's maybe not failed, was going along in the coursework and really didn't understand polynomials.
Yeah.
But they're gonna go back and log into their rostered, because if you do it that way, when they logged into their account, it would have their courses loaded that they're enrolled in. That's some background work. It could happen year 2 next year, but then they could go back and play the video on that,
Yeah.
do the work on that. The teacher could say, why don't you hop on Edgenuity tonight and check that chapter out, and then we'll go over it again tomorrow. And that's an even more proactive measure than quarter recovery.
And I love the idea of quarter recovery.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know that we have, had models in the past where we've looked at, potentially like semesters where you're just, doing recovery for one semester or not, but I just love the idea of a marking period. And while you're in the class, you've lost some details, some information due to whatever. You can get yourself back on track. It doesn't feel like you have to be a failure or that you have to deal with mistakes that were made or, whatever environment that you have been imposed upon within the last market period. I
We
love
talk
that
about career readiness.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go into work for a corporation where they let you fail. There's gonna be an intervention, there's gonna be a support plan, there's going to be a process, there's gonna be a mentor, something to help you get on track. That's what this is, but in an academic setting with school, I think. That's kind of setting kids up for that, I think, confidence builder. I can do this. Quarter one didn't go great. I had a lot going on at home.
Yep.
But I want to go back and I can recover that credit. And then mathematically, it's not at the end of the year with all the stress of summer coming. And I didn't pass all year and I got to hurry up and figure something out.
So was this a pilot or this is you?
We're all
You're in?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
So kudos to you and your team for your.
Yeah, for implementing it.
And this aligned with your focus on your ninth grade
We have our
academy.
ninth grade academy.
Building the skills there to, make sure that they are succeeding together, some powerful things.
So far, so good.
Great. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. And last but not least, at our district wellness committee, Rachel Marcel has officially been appointed the new chairperson. So thank you. Thank you to Mrs. Gendron and Mr. Giroux for serving on the committee. And you're going to provide a brief overview.
Just a brief update. We had our first meeting, November 19th. We first kind of reviewed the wellness policy 5405 because we had a lot of new members, new people who were a part of it. What does that wellness policy speak to? What is it about? So kind of just brought everybody up to speed on that. But then we really had kind of a conversation about what is wellness? What do we want this committee to be about? What do we want our charge to be versus, okay, we have this policy and let's review it. And I was so happy that it seemed to really be a conversation of a lot of people who were in the room. A lot of good ideas were shared. Staff were excited to talk about not only what typically is in these policies, a lot about student wellness and the meals that they get at school and the recess that they get and the activity time that they have and, safe snack list and those kinds of things, but also excited about this idea that our staff need to be well in addition to our students being well. Staff were excited to share about different step challenges and things that they do in their buildings to support staff wellness, book studies, different things that have been done and have been tried. And even the idea of like a staff step, I think Jennifer brought up like a Super Bowl of step challenge to get everybody kind of working together and collegially across the buildings, because in buildings, there's kind of this silo, we're all trying to do some things to support our staff, but how could we even bring that kind of full circle? We had a conversation really around what is wellness? What is our definition of wellness and what does that mean to be well? And we talked a little bit about that social, emotional, and the mental health piece that clearly has been prevalent more so since COVID. But how do we really support all areas of wellness? And, potentially when we're reviewing our policy next time, we just did our triennial review last year, but are there things that maybe we want to add or look to do? And again, I was just excited that there was a lot of conversation in the room and it didn't feel like I'm here telling you about the wellness committee, but how can everybody kind of contribute and be a part of it? And I would say everybody that was there pretty much spoke or had an idea or something to share. So that was absolutely fantastic. We did hear some departments, Mr. Nolan talked about our food department, a lot of the fresh veggies, those different things that have been worked in, the different meals that they're trying. So there was still a little bit of that, our sports and kids are using the weight room and kids are signing up for sports, which is all important and wonderful. But again, I feel like we really got to that view of total wellness and everybody being participatory in the committee. So as we promised, I did start a draft. Thank you. I did start a draft of what that charge might look like. We did look at some in the committee meeting that we had. Different districts have gone to a charge or, what is going to be kind of our leading statement or what do we want to do? So I wanted the board to see this first. I will certainly put it out to the wellness committee members to get some feedback, but I started to kind of create what this might look like for us, just something brief that kind of details what is our wellness committee about and what do we want it to be about moving forward. So that is there for you.
So some of the.
I know you all have it.
So one of the,
Reading, sir.
so one of the components that is not in our policy, and again, this will lead some policy discussion, is the staff component that's added in the charge, and the other conversation around social, emotional, so trying to figure how to put that into the charge as well.
I like the idea, we have to start focusing in on what are we doing? Who is involved and what is the outcome? I think it's been difficult for us to have committees where we're just feeling like we're just spinning our wheels and what actually is the focus. So I think, encourage you to keep going with this. I think it's great for us to be able to speak clearly about what does wellness mean to Cohoes City School District? Not only for the people that are on the committee, but for all of us. And to know what the expectation is of that committee and what outcomes we hope to achieve.
Yeah.
So thank you for putting the work into that.
And I really want the people to come and be a part of it, to feel like they're a part of a committee, like.
Actively participating.
A voice
Yeah.
in that committee. So, yeah.
Look forward to hearing where this goes. If we can, support through the policy committee, we'd be happy to, take a look and see if there's anything that we need to change. Will certainly let us know.
And we do have a meeting next week with Latanya from St. Peter's Health Partners. So we're continuing that partnership with the grant. They've been able to give some equipment and different things to PE. So Ms. O'Shea and I will be meeting next week with St. Peter's Health Partners to continue those conversations as well.
Great.
How they can work.
Any other committee member?
Any
And
comments?
I just wanted to also point out that one of the things that Mr. Hino had pointed out about the weight room was that it's not just our sports athletes that are in the weight room, that a lot of the other students are going in and utilizing it just for their health and well-being, not just to improve their athleticism. So, which was nice. It's a nice.
No, I mean, and I think he said there was around 30
Yeah.
students a day. I mean, it was really great numbers as well.
More to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
And then finally, I just want to provide an update before I turn it over to Stacy. We have had some inquiries about use of the indoor track. Pre-COVID, we did, by the community, pre-COVID, we did have that open at specific times. Community members did have passes. It was not open back up after COVID due to some staffing, concerns and have concerns about having the doors open, et cetera. So what we'll be doing next week is having a group meet to talk about it. Laura, Jeff, Bill Darcy, and one of our safety officers to, figure out ways that we can safely open this up to the community. So further discussion to follow. I'm not sure if you'd like to add anything.
I mean, I think it was very good conversation. It's relevant. We're at a time of year where people need to find a way. We're just coming off this wellness conversation, right? Find a way to be able to, stay active and exercise. And so, the conversation was more in a way of how can the community support the school district to be that leader and to, open up facilities so that we can, be able to enjoy them as they are paid for by our taxpayers.
Exactly.
In a way that is safe, but also in a spirit of volunteering. How can I help make this happen? If this means I have to stand at a door and check a badge or whatever that means. So I think the discussion was very good. I think that there was a lot of brainstorming ideas. It's just a matter of talking to the experts and people, who are involved in being responsible and in charge of those particular areas. I'm hopeful. I think that it was definitely getting a lot of use when it was open to the public. I know the hours, kind of differ just with the practices and things like that. So I hope that, we can come to some sort of a solution.
Well, and I think with the community center being closed, it gives us more of an opportunity to open that up to the community because they don't have anywhere else to go
Right.
in the city.
So more to follow. We do have some things that we did not have back then, such as the Raptor badging system and things like that too. So I will keep you updated. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to turn this over to Stacy.
So first, before I talk about the long-range financial plan, which everyone is looking forward to, as I know, I wanted to say that Mr. Darcy was going to join us tonight, but he was called to attend a flooding matter at the high school basement. Sorry, Laura. So he's unable to join us because he's attending to that. The long-range financial plan, it looks like this for folks to follow along with, and there's copies up here if anybody hasn't had a copy. We have had this format for a number of years, so it's not new. The format is basically, we start off with revenues, and that's highlighted in green, the summary, followed by expenses, which are highlighted in red. And then below, we talk about reserves and fund balance. And there's a number of assumptions that we use when we build this financial plan. I will say that the first column that says actual ST3 2024, so that's the actual results from our most recent financial audit, which is actually on the agenda to be approved tonight, which reconciles, of course, to the ST3. So fund balance is the most notable item there at 17.5%. So we do have a plan for that. There's a number of reserves that are underfunded. We've talked about this as part of the reserve plan. We do have an aging population, so we know that we're expecting double-digit retirements in the coming years. Particularly, I would say by the end of 2027, I would expect by June 30, 2027, a number of retirements. So that is factored in this long-range financial plan in the year 2028. So again, that's based off of years of service and age. For revenue, the big talking point, and things are in red font here because that's the items that we need to be paying attention to. So state aid. So the state charged the Rockefeller Institute with looking at foundation aid, right? So we were only recently, last year, fully funded for our foundation aid. So now they're reevaluating that. So if that changes, that's definitely going to impact the district because we're very dependent on state aid. So in this projection, I kept it flat. I don't know if that's going to be the case. There's a couple of meetings that I'll be attending this month, so I can update that as I have more information. But as of right now, I kept it flat. And I grew property taxes by 2%. So those are the assumptions for now. A meeting, there's an ASBO meeting on the 18th, so I'll attend that. That is virtual. And then there's a BOCES meeting on the 20th, which is over at Burnt Hills, Boston Lake. So I'll be attending that in person. And so certainly I'll have a little bit more information on what that's going to look like for the upcoming budget season. So that's the big talking points for us for revenue. For expenses, I assumed 3% growth for salaries in each category. But as I mentioned, both for support staff and instructional staff, I'm assuming that by 2028, we're going to have considerable breakage due to retirement. So that is factored in that final year.
Is that why there's, like more significant change between the current year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you have that breakage parsed out for.
Yes, in the final year. Yep. So I will say that it was challenging to break even in years 2027 and 2028. And so utilities are trending high in the current environment. I don't expect that to change. Transportation is trending high. And then health insurance, particularly pharmacy, is trending high. So those are our areas that we need to really work to try to control and get a grasp on. So recently we had a CASHIC meeting. A lot of the specialty drugs are really driving, we're self-insured through pharmacy, so it's really driving the spend there. Over 40% for us of the spend is on specialty drugs. So they're talking about some tools, introducing some tools to try to help alleviate that so that it doesn't, it's not
What does that mean?
uncontrollable.
What does that mean?
So
Introducing some tools, meaning education for employees or tools in, what is that?
They're talking about right now free market health program, which is, it's basically for folks that have specialty prescriptions. It's an individualized tool for that individual. It's almost like a case by case caseworker for that individual to make sure that that particular specialty drug is what they need to take in order to be successful in their wellness.
And this would be something that we would have to agree to.
It would have to
Or
be CASHIC wide.
CASHIC
Yeah.
did it, everybody was doing it.
Yes, so it would have to be CASHIC wide. It's just starting conversations, so. Yes, yes.
So that would,
We're nervous.
yeah, yeah.
Idea. I mean, I like, listen, I'm not gonna get into people's medical business. I like an
Exactly.
idea of having a caseworker, but also, having someone in my family on specialty medications.
Sure.
It's scary to think that somebody in an office is gonna tell you whether or not you're gonna get it. That's a scary prospect. We don't need to get into that conversation. I was just wondering what that.
Just starting the conversations now, but that's what it looks like. It's looks like an individualized plan for folks.
Okay.
It's meant to be a tool.
And we would then either continue with the plan or.
So this is just still in the very, very initial stages.
But we're budgeting.
We're budgeting
I guess I'm thinking of like, what is their timeline that they're making these considerations? Because we're giving a 5-year projection, assuming that we're staying with CASHIC and that we're continuing with whatever it is that they're.
So I assumed a 9% increase for next year. And then I assumed after that there's some controls in place, whatever that might be. Okay. So 9% for next year is the assumption. And then I'm assuming that would give us the time to collectively as a consortium to put some controls in place.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm always conservative.
I mean, 9%, I'm just asking, just as, just doing some renewals for my own company, and we just had a 22% increase.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 9% is pretty conservative.
9% is what was shared at that same meeting.
But we've also seen a number of increases over the course of the last couple of years.
Right, absolutely.
Through that, I mean, and I really speak to my own personal, because we're a part of CASHIC as well, so.
Right.
We have seen an increase, not 22%, but we've certainly seen a gradual increase.
I mean, I would have said 9% a year or 2 years ago, but now it's 20%.
Yeah, double digits.
I know that you're very conservative in your estimates, and I definitely appreciate that, because, we're not sitting at the table with Jeremy McDonald asking when we're not going to be out of money, because that come up every single day. Actually, the answer is 2 years. appreciate the conservative estimates. Don't like the red, obviously.
Right.
Me neither.
Can I just ask a question? And these are conversations that we were having during our audit committee, which is super fun. But we were talking about fund balance and, you know, how really anecdotally, I could say it's unreasonable for school districts to have such a small amount of reserve funds when, you know, we have such fluctuations and we are held to market conditions and state aid and, you know, all of these things that we don't have control over. I know that we have to have a plan in place to get to the 4%. Have we been hearing anything else in these conversations since the Rockefeller Institute has started this? You know, have we heard anything else about an increase in the minimum allowable for the fund balance?
I haven't. Again, I'll be attending a couple of meetings in December. So do you know anything?
I did read a summary of the Rockefeller study that was released on Monday. I read it in the Altamont Enterprise. And one of the items in there moves, one of the recommendations that they're making moves the 4% to 6%. And another additional 4% can be carried in as fund balance, provided there are conditions where that 4% would offset costs in the immediate following year, I believe was the language. So there's potential for a 10% carry if that flies. But, you know, we'll see what happens with the budget cycle.
Sure.
I also saw a flip-flop on the governor's last January commitment to, we need to save the safe harmless districts. So who knows?
Right. I mean, we're feeling though, that if that were to happen, that would be a positive.
Oh, yeah.
As far as where we stand.
Absolutely.
And then that would obviously shift some of these things.
Yes.
But put us in a better position.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you will see that the projection for year 2, so 2025, the only recommendations would be to fund the EBLAR reserve. That is because we can fund our retirement incentives because it's based off of sick time. And we know that we have a number of retirements coming, so that makes perfect sense. So that's our top priority, is to fund EBLAR. And then we have 3 open tax tertiary cases. So that is the next item of priority, to make sure that we're not surprised by any refunds that might be asked as a result of those judgments being finalized. And then last but not least is TRS. We are able to fund each year the TRS reserve. We're underfunded in that category, so that's our next priority. You are aware that we funded our existing capital reserve, the final 2 million, so that has been exhausted. So the next conversation in the 2025 budget would be to establish a new capital reserve, because there's many, many needs in the district that we're not going to be able to fund through the existing capital projects. So
did we find out if it had to be separate? Could we establish and fund?
We can.
Okay.
We can. It's just
I just know that that was something that we had.
yeah, we talked about, right? It can happen at the same time, yeah.
And Aaron said yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would just be working through the wish list, as we're calling it. And prioritizing in order to get that on a ballot, because it needs to be very specific what we intend to use the monies for.
Stacy, this kind of ties in right now. I don't know if you were going to, since Mr. Darcy's not here, talk about that we've started the visits to the building, but it might be a good time, good segue to just, you wanted to mention that, or else I can.
Yeah, sure. So we started doing our building walkthroughs. So we had the high school, we conducted the high school, we conducted over at Van Skyke and Abram Lansing.
High school Lansing and.
Oh, Harmony, sorry, not Van Skyke, Harmony Hill, yeah. Sorry, Mark. So this works into the budget process because through these walkthroughs, we identify needs. And then we prioritize district-wide what those needs are and the timeline and the funding mechanism, whether we would be able to do certain projects in-house with our existing human resources, or if we're going to need to be able to bid the work out potentially. Is it something that needs to be talked about as a wish list item through OAT for the existing capital projects? So we have added that to the budget process. So those discussions, there was a report that actually our new head custodian, our senior custodian for the day, he drafted some reports and he's submitted them to Bill and myself. And then we will revisit those during the planning process for the budget.
And when they're fine-tuned, we'll share out. And you might all recall, this is something that was very near and dear to Jonetta's heart.
Absolutely.
Embraced that process.
So I was going to say, just as we're talking about this, and it's been a fun 6 months without a director of facilities. So Mr. Darcy's first 3 weeks were very smooth as silk. And then we had an external gas leak over at Harmony Hill. The gas meter needed to be rebuilt. So we had a snowstorm on Thanksgiving holiday. We had a water main break, which impacted Page Avenue. We had a plumbing and draining issue at the middle school last week, which required an emergency repair on Saturday. And now we have flooding at the high school.
Okay.
So he's been a little busy.
I hope he feels well.
I know.
Give him some, job security.
All right, so, sorry, I digress. Basically, the gist of this is we need to pay attention to state aid and what the Rockefeller Center is going to recommend and what the state is actually going to do for revenues. We need to try to control the other costs that are not people. And the big ticket items are health insurance, transportation, and right now, utilities. And then we need to carefully plan, which we already have a reserve plan. We need to plan what we're going to use the fund balance for, which we're already there. And we use this to in the budget planning process. So we use this as a tool in the budget planning process going forward. So we talked about the assumptions for health. So next time we meet, I think we meet in January. So the next time we meet, I'll get an up-to-date number. I'll bring that back to the group. And then, as I mentioned, I have the 2 meetings to be briefed on the Rockefeller Institute and what that's going to mean for us. So I'll share that all back with you in January when we meet. Do you have any questions on any of this?
No, I think we discussed.
I appreciate your color coding again.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And then just reminder, tomorrow evening, our winter concert, technology committee meeting, January 2nd, and Abram Lansing College Day, January 7th. And although the other 2 are after our board meeting, I wanted to make sure we saw Harmony Hill College Day and Van Skyke Grade School College Day. And then in March, Career Week for everyone. Great, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, does the board have any discussion of agenda items? Any community discussion of agenda items? Great. Mrs. Rumsey, if I could just have you read a walk-on resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
Notification of the superintendent hearing appeal?
Yes.
Based on M.
Correct. So we need a motion to walk the outcome of the appeal to add it to the agenda. So can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mrs. Gendron,
Yes.
Paradis,
Yes.
Mr. Giroux,
Yes.
Mrs. Giller.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. So can I
I'm
get,
sorry, I didn't read it. I'm sorry.
let's read it.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Cohoes City School District hereby denies the appeal of the discipline imposed on a particular district student. So that will become 6M, as you had mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion that the Board of Education adopt the following resolutions of the December 11th, 2024 agenda, 6A through M, 7A through X, and 9A?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Giller,
Yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Gendron,
Yes.
Ms. Paradis,
Yes.
Mr. Giroux.
Yes.
Any comments from Board of Education members on anything not related to the agenda?
Actually, I just wanted to throw this out there that since we do have a new facilities director, it might be an opportune time to get the facility committee together.
So the plan is to get, we were talking it out today, the plan is to get the facilities committee together after the holidays, more towards the end of January.
Okay.
And then have the presentation to the boards in February, to the board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
They did a nice piece on Channel 13, Hannah Kolkowski.
I saw that.
Oh, shot. It was nice.
Congratulations to Hannah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hannah.
And she mentioned us too in her interview. Thanks, school board. She did.
Yeah, it had everything to do with us.
I know, right? I mean, we were up there on that diving board with her.
But it was nice to see.
It was. Sure. Thank you. Any comments from the audience on anything not related to the agenda? So just before closing the meeting, I would just like to say again, congratulations to Mrs. Rumsey. This is her last board meeting with us. So we want to thank you for your dedication to the school community here at Cohoes City School District, your commitment to us as a school board, as our clerk. You really have made it very easy for us, and they're going to be very tough shoes to fill.
Thank you.
So I just, again, wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Wish you the best. I mean, we're gonna see you around. Like,
Goodbye.
I know where you live.
Yeah. Stop by.
I know that your wealth of knowledge is going to be kind of tugged upon here and there. And so we wish you the best of luck in your retirement.
Thank you.
And we're very, very happy for you, but you will be missed.
Thank you very
So,
much.
Very much.
I'm just.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Where's your cake?
That's not, no.
Okay, so with that, dates for future meetings, January 8th and the 22nd, right here, Cohoes Middle School. Just wanted to wish everybody a happy holidays. I, read somewhere on the social media that there's so many holidays actually, within a short period of time. So whatever you celebrate, we wish you well and see you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Giller, we have to go.
Oh, I have to go into exec session.
Oh, my God, we almost.
And you didn't actually adjourn that meeting.
It's been a little while. Can I get a motion? To enter into exec session at
Oh, you asked.
6:20 to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
I make the motion.
Second.
Mrs. Giller,
I'm going to say yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mrs. Gendron,
Yes.
Ms. Paradis,
Yeah.
Mr. Giroux.
Yes.
Okay, now the meeting is closed.
We see that.